Alrighty, so you want to start GPU mining. Where do you start and what do you need to get? So obviously I've been doing this for a little bit now, and I can tell you that it's I am consumed every day trying to find the right equipment. One of the things I'm not going to do is I'm not going to pay scalped prices on anything. So let's talk about it. There's a couple places, right? Amazon is a big one, right? Amazon is a place I go to. Newegg is another place I like to go to. There is EVGA, their website. One of the really nice places I like to is called Ant Online. Okay. So these are some of the places I do like to try to locate the right stuff, the right parts to my mining rig. There's another really cool site, and I'm going to pull this one up. Bear with me 1 second. So what it's called is PC Part Picker right here. Okay. So PC Part Picker. And that's where it's going to start, right? Before we can do anything, you want to be able to know that everything's compatible. So I like using this website here. And pretty much what I do is I just make sure that everything I'm buying is compatible, right? So essentially what it is just go to a system builder here and you pick everything. So for me, obviously CPUs are not a problem getting, right? You can run these off of a Intel Celeron. You can run it off of a, off an i3 and i5. Now, I wouldn't suggest spending the money on these newer generation CPUs, but you can definitely do it. Okay. The go-to motherboard that I personally like to use, we come over here, it's the Z390, right? And the reason I like the Z390 is because it comes with 6 PCI slots. Okay, so we can come down here, and it also uses an LGA 1151 socket for your CPU, but no worries. What I like to do is come over here and we're going to go and find our Z390s, right? So you can just come over here, type in Z390, and you can see all the Z390s that are here. You can see the socket's an LGA 1151. So you already know what you're looking at. It's an ATX size motherboard. Typically I like to stay away from the mini ITXs because they don't have the extended PCI slots. Okay. So the most important thing is getting something with a lot of PCI slots. Now you can get something like a B250, which is designed specifically for mining, that has just, ridiculous amount of PCI slots. But what I typically like to do is I like to find these Z390s. Now, as of right now, these things are difficult to find. You can see, look at the prices over here. And this automatically will, and a lot of these are just out of stock, right? You don't need one with Wi-Fi, right? So typically what I like to do is just find the cheapest one. So if we come here, boom, and ASRock Z390 for 174. Well, I'll tell you right now, you can find these a whole lot cheaper. When I first started mining, maybe about 9 months ago, I bought my very first one in a ASUS Prime Z390P. I paid 79 bucks for it on Amazon. All right. But you can come over here and you can look, right? You go to add, right? Add this to your compatibility list. But what you can do is you can come over here and we're going to open up a new window and you'll see, you can find it on Newegg. Bam, right here, $134 on Newegg. It's currently out of stock though. All right. So Newegg is one of the good places I like to do because Newegg has the Newegg shuffle, right? So when we come over here and we get into Newegg, actually, there we go. So when we come into Newegg, right, I'll always have like an auto notify on this, and you can see it's got 6 PCI slots. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So you can run 6 cards without any kind of extenders on it. All right. But that's the go-to one that I like to find, right? It's that Z390. Now there's some other ones in there like the B550s and stuff like that. Yeah, the other thing that I like to do is every day I make sure that I'm entering into the Newegg shuffle because they're throwing out power supply units. They're throwing out motherboards. They're throwing out RAM that's attached with your GPU as a complete packet, right? And that's something that I'm going to be looking at, right? I always try to get the best bang for the buck. If I'm going to try to get some GPUs, and I've won the Newegg Shuffle a couple of times now. Every month, I'm getting at least 2 graphics cards from the Newegg Shuffle. So definitely jump into it. All right. The other thing to do is look for on Amazon, right? Look on Amazon, and you can see this one here. I'm not paying $250. I'll tell you right now, my threshold, I'm not going to pay over $140 for a motherboard. All right. It's just not worth it. And you can see here, yeah, this is $251. Ain't going to happen. Yeah. And right there. So I bought this one September 11th, 2021. Yeah, I paid way less than that. The other thing you can do is you can find these like open box. All right. So between Amazon and between Newegg, these are going to be the 2 go-to places for your for your motherboards. Amazon definitely is a really good avenue to find, but yeah, any 390 that I can find is what I'm going to be looking at. Another one is some aftermarket third-party stuff like Mercari, like eBay, especially after a Newegg Shuffle. You'll see people throwing these out there on eBay or Mercari, and you can find these pretty decent, right? So on eBay, Facebook Marketplace, just type in, Z390. And again, this is the go-to one that I like. The B550 is another one. And you can see, so you've got, an MSI right here for $139. This one here, or actually right here, Asus Prime, pre-owned, used. Well, it's coming from China. So nothing against coming from China. It's just you're going to be waiting a while, right? And these are obviously the sponsored ones, but let's see, ending now. Let's just see what the going rate market value is for these going. So you can get an open box. This one's apparently not looking to sell, but you have this one here, pre-owned, an MSI one, Z390 for $61, right? You've got another one, MSI right here for $35. Actually, I wonder what the problem with this. Yeah, so you can see this one here, 6 slots, right? $134. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 PCI slots. Okay. Let's just take a look. And this one here, same thing. This is the exact one I have. You can see the 6 slots there. And then this one here, I wonder if it's got any issues. Let's see, used. Works great, obvious, but it works. Oh. Listen, this is a gold mine right here. I mean, it's got a day left, $35, right? It's got your 6, 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, this one only has 5. This one only has 5. So it's the Tomahawk one. That's why. But still 5 or 6 is perfectly fine. That's what you want to look for. So eBay is a great source to look at it for your motherboard. So once you have your motherboard set up, right, and we could see it's over here on the part picker. So now what we need to do is we need to choose our CPU, right? We need to choose our CPU that we're going to want to use. These are all the compatible CPUs, right? i5s, i9s, i7s. Listen, you really don't need to use that, right? I'm telling you, I've been able to find an Intel Pentium Gold G5400, right? You can find a Celeron, right? 4930. Now look at the prices on these, right? Again, you can find these very, very cheap, aftermarket, used. I can come right in here, and I'll throw this back into Amazon. We'll see if we can find it used, right? So $89 on Amazon right here, right? There's your, that's one you can find. But now if we go over to eBay, right? We go over to eBay or even Mercari, right? So while we're over here on eBay, I'm just going to drop this in here. And again, the 2 that I like are these Pentium Golds, the G5400s, right? And look at this. You can buy a lot of them. And that's what I did one time. I ended up buying like 3 of them at one time, and I paid, I think, like $80 for them. I would not buy I wouldn't spend anything for anything open box or used for anything over $80. You can find these pretty dirt cheap. Like I said, this one here, you can, if you're going to build a couple of rigs, this is the way to do it. Let's just see, ending soon. So this is a lot of 3 of them. Here we go. Let's see. And this is something I found, right? I just bought them like this. I bought them used, and you can find them pretty cheap. You know, you don't need to spend a tremendous amount. The other one, like I said, is coming over here to Macari. And while this is opening up, you know, like I said, just throw in a search, right? Throw in a search. Oh, come on. There we go. And let's just see. So we have, I mean, look at this i3 processor. Now, whether or not it works, but the good thing about buying from like Macari from eBay, if it says it works, you know, you have buyer protection. So test it out. If it's not functioning properly, send it back, right? Send it back. You can get, and this is what I ended up doing, right? Just buying a lot of, you know, a couple of them, you know, 3, 4 of them for a really small price and throwing it in there. If you come over here to my rigs, right, you'll see like the Iron Man here. This one has the Z390, right? And it's got an Intel i3. Now the i3 I found dirt cheap. I paid under $100 for it. All right. And it's got 120 gigabyte PNY SSD drive. If I come over here to the Hulk, my Hulk, again, a Z390 motherboard, it's got an Intel. This is the Intel Gold 5420 with the same thing, a 120 gig SSD drive. If I come over here to my Captain America rig, now this is one of the test benches. This is in my son's room, same thing, right? It's got a Celeron 5920. It does have a 460M. However, this only has 3 PCI slots, but it's a test bench, right? It's in my son's room. It's just his computer that he uses. We don't need to worry about using all the PCI slots. Same thing with the Winter Soldier one here, right? This is the one in my office here. This one here has a 570, which has, let me count it. Hold on. Yeah, the 570's got 4 PCI slots. I've got the you know, the AMD Ryzen 9 3900X CPU on it, which I'm CPU mining on, right? This was a gaming computer that I wanted to build out. You can see I'm running it off of a USB 3.0. And okay, and don't worry about this. This is, you know, obviously everything in here. I've got an MSI SSD drive, M2 2 terabyte in there. So it's my computer that I use on the Windows side, but it's still present there, right? You come over here to the Thor rig, and you can see this one here has 5, right? This is a Rockstrix 450. It's got 5 PCI slots. This is also running, it's an AMD, not an Intel CPU, but it's got another Ryzen 9. So the 450 on the AMD side has 5 and 6 slots. And then coming over here to the Black Widow, which is the one that I just built, this has a Z590, which has another 5 slots. And you can see I'm running an i3 that I got a pretty decent rate on. Okay. So I bought it actually used for, I think, under $70 for the CPU. So finding them aftermarket, perfectly fine. You know, these things are pretty easy. It's not like you've got to take your entire computer apart. You're literally pulling a fan off. And if you need to replace the CPU, you're doing it. All right. So once we get our CPU here in our part picker, let's just say that we go ahead, boom, we get this one here. And like I said, you can, you know, just open it up in a new window and it'll take you and show you what the Amazon price is on it. So when we add this now, so we'll add it to our build. Okay. And now what we have is we've got to find what is the next thing we need. Well, we need memory, right? We need RAM. So come over here and really any DDR4 RAM will work. I'm really partial to the Corsair stuff right here. The RGB ones, I use an 8 gig. You don't need anything more than 8 gigs, right? The 8 gig is all you need. Pretty simple. Find it very cheap. I actually buy it in bulk. I'll buy them like 4 8 gig sticks for like $150, and then I'll utilize all of the rigs that I'm going to be building. So, you know, don't spend a lot of money into it. You know, any DDR for 8 gig, this Patriot signature line, the G Skill value, and we're talking $30 for it. Alrighty. And again, some of the places, especially if you live in the US, another place that I like to go to get RAM is Best Buy. They always have it on sale. So you only need an 8 gig. If you, whatever you pick, it doesn't matter. Like I said, we'll just pick this G Skill value 8 gig right here for 29.99. And then after that, the only other thing you really need to do is you need to get a power supply, right? So we'll take a look at power supplies here. One of the key things that I like to do is I only like to get platinum or gold power supplies. So you can come over here, you can check platinum, you can check gold, and these are all the ones that you can find. Now, it depends on how you're going to go about this. I personally, one of the things I've found that I liked was I liked using these server power supplies. So really the only thing that I am powering with my PSU is the motherboard and the CPU, right? So I don't need anything crazy. Like I said, you can come over here to EVGA. EVGA always has rebates on stuff. I just got in the mail the other day two EVGA debit cards for $40 each. And oh wow, I think did they redo their website? I think they did. Yeah, pretty cool. So what I'm going to be looking at is, bear with me here for a second. Okay, so while EVGA is opening up here, again, what I like to do is come over here. I like to go to power supplies, right? And you can buy them bundled. There's all kinds of things you can do, but we come over here to power supplies and you'll see that there's actually some pretty decent rates on them. So the reason that I only like gold or above is because of the efficiency, right? When you start getting into bronze and plus, you're like at 85% efficiency on these things. But you can really get a good deal on some of these, right? So if we come over here to a gold one, and let's just say that we're looking for a 600 watt, I mean, you can see right here, even 500 watt is plenty. You're talking $39.99 for a power supply, right? For a 500 watt. If you're going to go 600 watt, it's about $10 more, but really, really good price on these. So any of these power supplies are going to be well worth it. Now, if you want to, go with a 1000 watt power supply, then yeah, you're going to be spending some, just a little bit more money on this. You can see that 1000 watt one goes for about 139. So it depends on how you want to do it, right? I'll show you, once we get this one built, you'll see how mine comes out. But coming back over to, looking at that parts list, you can see, exactly what the wattage you want to do kind of in the back of your head. Now, something cool that I like to use on Ant Online, if you're looking to get that graphics card, right? It actually has a pretty decent in here. We'll open this up. Has some pretty good, like we'll type in EVGA here and they will drop some decent bundles on here. This is something I've actually purchased from them like 3 times now. So we'll let this open up here. As soon as it's thinking, come on. All right, while it's doing that, again, coming over to Newegg, you can just look by your components, come over here to power supplies, and we'll dive over here. And again, what are you looking for? Well, below a 600 watt gold is what I'm looking at, right? And you can get some pretty decent rates on this, especially when you bundle it, right? So you'll be able to see, you're looking at, let's go in here. And I would say like a 450 is probably the lowest you want to go, right? So coming over here, like you could see, you've got a 500 watt for $39, pretty much the same thing you're seeing on EVGA's website. You don't really need to spend a lot. And then if you're going to buy it, you know, 1,000 watt one and not go a server power supply, then do it. You know, it's definitely going to have it there. You can come over here to Amazon and do the exact same thing on Amazon, right? We can type in, you know, gold 1,000 watt. $1,000 watt power supply. And especially if you have like Amazon Prime and stuff, you could take some really good, you know, you could see here EVGA $159 for an 80 plus gold 1,000 watt. You know, 139 for the same one. The difference between them, obviously this one has eco mode. This one is both are supernovas. So, yeah, I mean, definitely you can use it to your liking. And that's it. I mean, that's pretty much looking at all of these different sites. Um, I guess these guys are definitely getting overwhelmed. I guess maybe they've dropped some bundles in here because it looks like, all right, here we go. So EVGA, go to graphics cards, and you'll see the bundles here, right? So it typically will come with a power supply. I think every bundle has like a really cheap, like $30 EVGA RGB keyboard that, you know, I typically give away. Like, you know, I give it to my nephew, give it to my son, and stuff like that. Man, I guess they're just, we'll let it open up and I'll kind of show you what it is. But yeah, that's ultimately where I look, right? So you've got, coming back to it, you know, you've got your power supply. So in this case here, let's just say that we snag a power supply here. We're going to grab this one here, like a 500 watt. And then the only other thing that we're going to need, right? We're going to need a storage, right? You're going to need a storage. And again, all you really need is just a really small SSD drive. You can buy on Amazon, or a Newegg, right? Come over here to Amazon, and the one I always get, I think I bought like 10 of these things. You come over here and you can just get the 120 gigabyte one, and normally they're like $20. So this is the 500 gig. Oh, you know what? Because I put 500 gig. Yeah, we'll just delete that. Yeah, right here. So yeah, this one here is $26 for the 250. Where is, let's just see, it might give us the option to, where's the 120? Let's see, here's the 120 right here. And you can see I've I've purchased it 5 times. So 120, here it is, $20, you know, pretty decent price. That's all you really need. So you throw that on there, right? We get it in there, and let's see, compatible. Again, you don't need anything crazy. You can even go outside of it, but here it is. Here's the PNY one that I have, that I've used in the past. So we've got now our motherboard, we've got our CPU, we have our memory, we have storage, we have a power supply. You don't need a CPU cooler because you're not CPU mining. The only other thing now you need is your video card, right? And that's where it comes down to finding these video cards, right? We have, so some of the things that I'll do is, well, yeah, if you get the chance, jump on Antonline. They've got the bundles there. It looks like they're just, their site's just being overwhelmed. I'll tell you, I do buy it off Amazon. You know, I have some bots that I run. You know, I think right now you can get an RX 6600 XT for, I think, like $599 if they still have them in stock. I'm getting let's see, the Red Devil. Where is the Red Devil? Actually, right here, you can, you know, it's a 6600. Where's the Red Devils? You know, 6600 XT, pretty decent card, pretty cheap. Yeah, right here. So they were $599 the other day. Yeah. So it is what it is. You can see I've purchased 2 of them now for $599 each. You can go on Newegg Shuffle. You can buy them on Newegg, MSRP. The other thing is, you know, Best Buy does these drops, right? They do these drops. Actually, today's Thursday. They just had one. And, if you can get them at MSRP, great. The Founders Editions cards at Best Buy are pretty much the way to go. You can get a 3060 Ti for $399, right? But that's something that I use. I always check these every morning. I'll check to see if they have any cards at my local store. I'll get over there as soon as I can. They open up at 9 a.m. But you can get these 3080 or 3090 for $1,500, non-LHR. But Best Buy, Newegg, Amazon, Antonline, these are definitely the ones that I kind of go through and get these. Oh, here you go. Here's the bundles. So they were just dropping some new ones. That's why. So you could see the bundles in here. If you look at it, so this one here for $739 comes with a 3060. Right, comes with a power supply, 650 power supply, comes with a keyboard and a mouse. Those things you could sell on eBay. Realistically, a 3060 is going to run you about $450, $500 on Best Buy. So you're paying a little bit more. Where you can definitely get your bang for your buck is, I know, like I purchased the 3070 Ti's from them right here. Here you go, 3070 Ti. Comes with the 3070 Ti, comes with the keyboards, the cooler, and the power supply. Typically you're going to be buying these for like $800. So you're spending just a little more, but you can kind of recoup the cost if you sell some of the stuff out of the bundle. And if you're building a computer like I was in my case, you can use it. A 3080 Ti right here, 3080 Ti for $1,900. This 3080 Ti, you're going to get on Best Buy for $1,500, just the graphics card. So you're also getting, what are you getting here? You are getting I think it's 1,000-watt GPU. So you're getting $130, $140 GPU. You're getting a keyboard. You're getting a pass-through and all that stuff. So these are things that I always kind of just keep in the back of my head. And of course, Zotac. Zotac's another one that I'll go directly to the store on Zotac, and I will look for the graphics cards, right? So you can see they've got graphics cards in stock. You've got the one I typically get is this 3060 Ti for $699, currently out of stock, but no big deal. They stock this pretty easily. I'd say like twice a week, you're going to see them stock it. I've purchased the 3070 Ti's from them. I'm actually in the process of actually tomorrow I got another 3060 Ti coming out that's being delivered. You have your 3070 Ti for $1,169. Now, I really could care less about all the RGB ones. So they have one that's about $100 cheaper, but it all comes down to, your ROI date. You don't want to pay extra for something you're not going to be using. So Zotac, EVGA does drops as well, the Best Buy one. And then, of course, AMD, right? I only have one AMD rig. It's the 6600 XTs, but you can come here. They do drops every week, and you can pick up a 6700 XT for $479. That's going to give you, a pretty decent hash rate with low power. Even the 6900s for $1,000 is a pretty good deal. So there's definitely ways to get your graphics cards, right? I use bots. I subscribe to some channels that give me, the opportunity to locate these. And that's it. I mean, that's pretty much all you need. You start with one card and then you go from there. That's how I started. I started with one card, and now I'm sitting on, what am I sitting on right now? It's 25 cards. I've got one on my bench that I need to install. I've got two coming in tomorrow, and I've got a third one that's coming in next week. So, all to all, it's a really cool hobby. Definitely, it gives me something to do. It's a hobby that I like when I'm not trading, but I'm also building a pretty good nest egg of crypto that I'm mining. You can see I'm mining Ethereum. I am mining XMR, Raptorium, and Flux. So hopefully this kind of gives you an idea of where and how to obtain the parts for it. And now let's get into the garage here, and I'm going to build out this 6600 XT rig. What are you doing? Okay, so you want to start mining. What is the first thing you have to do? Well, we got to use a mining operating system. So you can do it on Windows. I really do like Hive Os. I like the way that it's set up. I like the simplicity behind it, and I like the functionality. It's very user-friendly. So what I'll do is I'll drop my link down below. There's a referral link. If you decide to sign up with the referral link, Hive Os will deposit, I think it's $10 into your account. Really doesn't matter for your first 3 rigs, but after your first 3 rigs, unless you're mining on HiveOS's actual pool, they're going to charge you. And you can see I'm getting charged 19 cents a day for all 6 of my rigs, right? So I'm not the only thing I'm mining on HiveOS's pool is Ethereum. But what you need to do here, right, is we need to come over and we need to hit the little plus sign if we want to create a essentially a worker. That's what we have to do. So go add worker, right? So when you have a completely blank screen, you're just going to add a worker. Once you add that worker, the next thing that you're going to do is, we're going to add a rig unless you're using an ASIC. But in this case here, we're doing it on a GPU. So we're going to add the rig. And there's a couple ways to do this, right? And this is why I like the functionality behind HiveOS. So you can do just the very simple way, right? Where you're going to install HiveOS onto the rig. All right. It's going to be whether it's a SSD drive or a USB. And from there, what you'll do is you're going to input some information into it once you first log in. It's going to ask you for a rig ID and a password, and that's it, right? You're going to go through the setup. It's going to ask you to, name it. It's going to ask you to set up the Wi-Fi, all that stuff. The other option, right, is you can create essentially a flash drive, right? And it's going to go through once you first log into the system. It's going to go through how to enable it, how to set it up, and then of course if you have already a existing farm, right? Everything is set up. You've got HiveOS running on it, and now you just want to connect that to HiveOS. This is going to create essentially a password, a username and password that you just input, and it'll link it right to your account. All right. So the first way to do it, we're just going to click right here, install HiveOS onto your operating system here. Depending on what you're running, I'm running macOS. So I'm going to click macOS. The first thing that I'm going to do is download HiveOS. So I download HiveOS onto my Mac computer. Once that's downloaded, I'm going to go to next. And then I need to download essentially a writing app. And what I like to use, you can see it's right here, it's Balena Etcher. You're going to go ahead and download Balena Etcher. This is the program you're going to use to actually flash the operating system onto your SSD that you're going to be creating, or a USB drive. Okay. I can tell you I use both. I have just a very small, like 64 gig or 128 gig SSD drive in the big rigs. In all of my test benches, because I run Windows on them, I just have it on a USB drive, and I really don't notice a huge difference. Obviously, the USB drives can fail. So if you're going to be running, your rigs from, an off-site location, maybe that's something that you don't want to do. If you have to drive an hour to get to your rigs, but everything I run from my home. So click download on that. Now what you're going to do, just follow the links, right? Connect your SSD or USB drive to your PC, launch Balena Etcher, and then you're just going to go through the prompts of it. So the last thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to download the rig configuration file, right? You're going to want to download rig configuration. And essentially this is what inside of that rig configuration, you'll be able to open up and edit and add in your user, your rig ID name, and all that other information. Okay. Just the way I run it, I don't do it this way. What I do is once you first log in, I go through entering the rig ID and the password. So what I will do is coming back over here, when I add in my worker, I'm going to come down here to connecting to an existing, and you could see right here, I'm just going to put, once I get HiveOS running on the rig, and I've got it plugged in, I'm going to input the rig ID and I'm going to put a password, right? That's all it is. So when you first log into HiveOS, you'll see it says enter first run /F. Then it's going to ask you to go ahead and set a new rig password and all that. Okay. But I'm going to run you over here to Balena Etcher. So we have downloaded, the software, right? HiveOS. And now I need to go into Balena Etcher, which is right here. So we'll open it up. I'm going to now choose the file that I just downloaded, right? So you can see Hive Os is downloaded right here. I'm going to hit open. I'm now going to select the target, which is going to be this Lexar USB flash drive. You need a minimum of 8 gigabytes, right? And I'm going to hit select. I'm going to hit flash. This is going to take about 2-3 minutes. Let me throw in my password. It's going to take about 2-3 minutes to go ahead and load. So while it's running, we'll let it do its thing, and I'll be back in about 2 minutes, like I said. Alrighty, so we're coming up to the final push here. It's flashing it, and then it's going to just verify it. So once it's verified, we'll be able to pop it out, and here's the verification now. Once this is done, we'll go ahead and remove, in this case, the USB drive, and we're going to go build our rig. Alrighty, so, and of course now the validation is on the tail end, and she's done, right? So flash complete. Let's get over and build out the rig. All right, so here we go. We got our key elements. We got the i3 CPU. We're going to run it off of 1 8 gig DDR4 memory RAM, and we have our Z590 motherboard. This one has 5 PCIe ports that we're going to run off of, and here she is. We'll go ahead and set this up and post the motherboard. All right, so we have our motherboard here, and now we are going to install our RAM. So this particular one here uses the A2 slot. Make sure to read your instruction manual to see where exactly you're going to put this in, but this is going to go into the A2 slot. Obviously it was a little cheaper to buy it in a pair, so there's 2 8 gigs here. I'm going to use the other 8 gig for another build at a later date. We'll open this up, and like I said, this particular motherboard uses the A2 slot. Some of them use the A1. Line it up pretty nicely here and just make sure that it's seated properly. Once it's seated, I'll lock it in on the end, and that's all she wrote. And there it is, just locked in. Pin it in, and we are done. Now we'll move on to the CPU. All right, so now we're going to install the CPU. This one here is an Intel i3. I typically wouldn't even have paid for the i3, but it was pretty cheap on Amazon. I think I picked it up for like 70 bucks. So this i3 is not a graphics, doesn't have a built-in graphics into it. So just keep that in mind when you're looking for CPUs. If you don't have the integrated graphics into it, you're going to have to use a graphics card to get a display. You'll see later on, we'll get that set up, and that's how we're going to view our Hive OS. But pretty simply, this is, you just pull that pin out, and the CPU is only going to go in one way. You're going to line up, there's a little white arrow in the far corner. You're just going to line that up. Make sure it's seated. So when you do put it in to the CPU slot here, you want to make sure that it's seated properly before you latch it down. So you'll see, take out the little plastic, yeah, there you go. You're just going to take that little plastic holder out. You're going to seat it in. I like to just shimmy it around. You'll see right here, locked in pretty nicely. And once we get that in there, here we go. You can see, wiggle it a little, it'll seat itself, lock it in. Pretty simply, just going to lock it in. And then the next thing is to go ahead and install the fan. So I'm not CPU mining. I don't CPU mine with Intel CPUs. So this is just going to be the stock fan that comes with it. That's all it really needs. If you're going to be CPU mining, then you're going to want like a cooler or something like that. Simply there's 4 little grommet holes where the fan locks in on the motherboard. You're just going to line that up. There is already some, and you'll see right underneath on the bottom, you're going to see the thermal paste. Thermal paste is already installed on it. You don't have to worry about putting thermal paste on this. You're just going to line it up with the holes and just push down and rotate those little black knobs, and they're going to lock in your CPU fan. Once the CPU fan's locked in, you'll see the little connector that is going to go right on the top end of the motherboard. You'll see it's a CPU fan. If they're not labeled, I've had them where they're not labeled. It's the only one that's above the CPU fan. You're either going to get CPU fan 1 or CPU fan 2 on the motherboard. So we'll go ahead, plug that in, make sure we have power. I'm going to go ahead and connect the PSU to the motherboard, see if we can post it and just get into the BIOS. And from there, I'm going to walk you through how to connect into the BIOS. So these little black knobs, typically you can just use your hand. For some reason, though, it was just being a little difficult. So I just wanted to make sure they were locked in, and all 4 of them are locked in. And then we're just going to plug in our power cable, and that's it. All right, so now we're going to use the PSU, the power supply unit. This is an EVGA 650 watt gold. Essentially, you want to stick with a gold or a platinum for efficiency. It's going to give you pretty much the best efficiency running at these current temperatures, current power usages that we're going to be using on these mining rigs. So go ahead. I'm going to pull it out. Once I get the power supply, and that sticker was a pain in the butt. Once I get that power supply out, I'm going to connect essentially I'm going to connect the motherboard 24 pin to it, and then I'm going to connect the CPU power cable to the CPU slot on the motherboard. So we're going to pull it out. Really the only cables I'm going to be utilizing right now, those are going to be for the VGA there. I'm just going to use my CPU and my 24 pin motherboard power cable. All right, so here's our 650 watt EVGA gold power supply unit. It's already got the built-in motherboard power cable that's just going to slide right into the motherboard. And then next, I'm going to just connect that CPU. All right, so once I put it in, just make sure that it locks in. And there we go. All right, so we got the motherboard power on. And next step is just finding the CPU cable. So they're pretty much easy. It's just plug and play. VGA goes to VGA, CPU goes to CPU. That's about it. You can't plug in your CPU to the VGA, so just make sure it lines up. It all has to do with the power rating. So we have CPU 1 on the back of this power supply unit. Plug that in, and then the other end just right into the slot that says CPU on the motherboard.
If you're wondering why I've been struggling with this, I don't know if you can tell my hands are a little swollen. This was the day I had my allergy test, and I had a little bit of a reaction from it. So it took a little getting used to, but she was good. All right, and then of course we're going to get our actual power cable to power our PSU. So in my case, I run everything off of 110. All my PSUs are running off of 110. And then I have a 240 volt that I run all of my server power supplies. So my server power supplies are going to be powering my GPUs. The only thing that I'm using 110 for is just the PSU itself. Alrighty, so now we're going to have to go and put some power on the motherboard. So I have this nice little adapter here. You just plug it into the pins, and there's a little button that I just hit the lever on and hit powers on. So I only do it, you're only going to have to do it once. Once you get into the BIOS, you can go ahead and set it up so that it no longer needs to do this, or you can use a screwdriver. This is a whole lot easier for me to do it. All right, so here we go. Give it some power. I'm going to depress both of these buttons at the same time, and we should get power. Here we go. Fan spinning, and I've got the RGB now on the RAM.
Alrighty, so we're going to go ahead and post the motherboard before we have anything else installed. And real quick, what I want to do is come over here to advanced mode. I've never actually used one of these motherboards. Normally it's either an Asus or a Gigabyte, but come over to advanced mode, and let's see. Over in advanced mode, the really only thing I care about is coming over to, let's see, chipset storage. Let's see what chipset. So we want to make sure that primary graphics adapter is on board, right? I don't want to have to go through a card. Make sure my above 4G coding is enabled. And depending on some of the stuff, you're going to have to come and look at your PCIe link speeds. Right now it's set to auto. Typically you'll have to move it to Gen 1. It all depends if I get errors with the cards. Right, so and here it is. Actually, it's under the advanced chipset configuration. I went ahead and disabled onboard HD audio. I don't need audio on there. Deep sleep, I don't need deep sleep in, right? That's disabled. Restore on AC power loss. So yes, restore on AC power loss. Restore onboard LED default. I really don't care, but I'm gonna go ahead and apply it and enable it anyway. And that's it. That's pretty much all I'm gonna have to do in there. Once I'm done with that, I'm gonna go over to exit, save changes, and exit, right? Click yes. And then what I'm going to do is we're going to go ahead and see if we can get Hive Os to come up on here now. So we're going to restart. So come over here. We are going to save changes and exit. I've got the SSD for Hive Os installed now, and let's see if we can post into it and set up the Wi-Fi. So I have a little Wi-Fi dongle that I use to set up. That way I don't have to run here we go. That way I don't have to run an Ethernet cable 50 feet in my garage. And then I'll just go ahead and take the Wi-Fi off and plug it in via Ethernet once I get it over on the rig. All right, here we go. Hive Os loading up. Perfect. Yep, set up Wi-Fi. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and go to devices. Alrighty. And then while this is loading up, it is going to come on over here. We're going to put it on this bottom shelf, just below these 30 series cards that are doing Ethereum. So what I'm going to be doing from now until Ethereum goes to proof of stake, I'm going to have the 30 series cards mining Ethereum, these 30 series cards mining Ethereum. I've got 7 cards down here doing Flux, and then I'm going to put these 6600 XTs doing Ethereum. And then all of my test benches will be already. So what we have here, we have three 6600 XTs. We've got a power Red Devil. We've got a Nitro, and then we've got a Fighter. And I've got 3 other cards coming in. They should be in next week. So I'm going to get these up and running. What I am going to do is you can already see I've got one already on here. I'm just going to throw these 3D printed GPU hangers right in so they can hang up on my racks. So throw these in here. We're going to connect these via GPU risers. And from there, they're just going to go right into my server power supply, and we should be good to go. So what we're pretty much going to do is this. From gpurisers.com, I've got a GPU riser, I've got a USB cable, and I have a USB adapter to the PCIe. So really all this is going to entail is this. We're going to Alrighty. So what we're going to do is this. We've got a 8 to 6x2x2 splitter. So what we're going to do is the very first one, let me just see here. So we've got an 8-pin here, and then we have a 6-pin that needs to be plugged in off of that splitter. So really what you do is you just kind of pop this in here, right? Sits right in there. And then I'm going to take my 8-pin, right? I'm going to put the 8-pin into the 8-pin slot. She's in there. And then I'm going to go ahead and disconnect one of these adapters. And now it's a 6-pin that goes down into this. And these risers have 2 power ports. They have one on the side, they have one underneath. I go ahead and plug the USB in the bottom, just like so. And then the last thing I've got to do is connect my VGA cable to there we go, to the adapter. All right, there we go, we're plugged in. This right here goes at the end of the USB and then plugs into the PCIe lane on the motherboard. So that's pretty much all it takes. I'll show you once it's all done. Alrighty, so we've got our 4 6600 XDs here. Haven't done any cable management yet, but we've got all 4 running. We've got the Sapphire, we've got a Power Color, we've got the Power Color Radeon Red Devil. We've got an XFX in the back. I've got another Red Devil coming in tomorrow. Pretty simple, you know, no big issues with it. And, you know, we've got the GPU hangers on it. Once I add this one here, we'll have a total of 5 cards. I'll have one more ready to go. I want to do a 6 card with it. I just got to find the 6th card. But really good profitability. And let's jump over into Hive Os now and you know, just see what we kind of did with the overclocks. Alrighty, so we're over here in Hive Os. We are working on the Black Widow rig. We've got the 4 6600 XTs. And what we're going to do is we're going to dive right into our shell, right? There's a couple ways you could do this. Let me upgrade this real quick. So you can come over here, you can go to remote access, and you can do this from anywhere. You don't need to be on your network. You could just create a Hive shell start, and anywhere, if you're, you know, this is what I do when I'm traveling. If I can do it from my computer, I can do it from my iPad. And what it allows you to do is actually dive into your miner and see if you have any errors. Okay. Knowing that I have the IP address to my local network that this particular rig is working off of, I'm just going to go ahead, and you can see up here on the right hand side, I'm going to log into it. default is always going to be user for the login, and password is always going to be number one. And you could see what we have here. If I needed to do, if this were NVIDIA cards, I needed to update the drivers, I could do it here. I can pretty much access everything from the miner itself. And then what I would do is I'd come in here and type in miner, and this is actually the miner working. So we can actually see that, yeah, we're getting roughly 31, 32 mega hash. Power level is actually pretty good. And when it comes to setting these, right, I mean, this was very, very tricky. I did have to come in. The easiest one was my Sapphire. I was able to find a lot of people that were using these settings, right? 965 core, 640, 620, 1300 on the memory, 1135 on the memory power and stuff like that. It was pretty simple. You know, you can come in here. This is really what I was just essentially from the mining community. I was able to just copy, and this worked out really well. I was finding it stable at 30, just over 32. The XFX GPU was actually the same exact thing. I'm using the same exact settings, and I'm getting 32 on it, which is pretty good. The temperatures are really nice on it. Now, the ones that I came into problems with, and luckily I lucked out big time. I got all Samsung memory and a Micron memory. I don't have Hynix. Hynix to me, just nothing but issues. A lot of the Zotac cards I have are Hynix memory. But you could see I was with the stock, or not the stock, but with the overclock settings that I was running on the other two, I was actually crashing my GPU. You know, you'd see a big old red over here, and the GPU would be crashing. So what I ended up having to do was tweak it. And what you want to do when you're overclocking these is you want to find that area where you're extremely stable. This power color, this is actually the red double. This one here at 900 core, I wasn't stable. At 901, I'm stable. And then I kind of just played with it. You know, I found some decent settings. You know, my memory is at 1050. The other power color was at 925. I couldn't do anything lower than 925, which is fine. You know, yeah, it's using just these two are using a little more power, but nothing crazy. I mean, 5 watts isn't something I'm going to be too crazy about, you know, getting into. And it's just about finding that medium where you are, you know, definitely stable. You know, what I wanted to do is and these will pop up into 32. I'm perfectly fine with it being 31 and a half. You know, they do get up there into the 32 mark. And again, you know, the wattage that I'm using here, total watts at the wall is actually, you know, just a little over 206. This isn't egregiously over or underestimating. I think it's at like 218 is when I'm actually pulling. So it's not too bad. And that's it. I mean, like when you're overclocking, if you want to do all of them at once, you can come in here and do them all at once. Or you can do individual ones. And then what I do from there is I can lock them in. So I can come over here to overclock, and you can see I'm running Ethereum. I'm going to go ahead and hit plus. And now this is going to be my Ethereum overclocks for the rigs that I have there. And I don't need to come back and reset them. So hopefully it works out. You know, hopefully everything, you know, they've been pretty stable now. We're going on 2 full days that this has been up. Obviously I just updated it, but you could see a day ago is when I booted it after finally getting my overclock set. So pretty much this was a pretty good build. I'm pretty happy with the 6600 XTs. You can see I've got 4 of them now. I've got another one being delivered tomorrow that I'll throw on my test bench, try to get the overclocks right. It's another power color red double. So I'm hoping that it's going to be the same overclocks that I'm using this one. And then I'm going to try to keep locating. I want to finish it out with the 6 rig. And then if I can, if there's the ability to, I'll be looking for some more. Now, once Ethereum goes to proof of stake, you know, I'm not going to be mining Ethereum with these, but I've already tested them out on Ergo. These run really well on Ergo. So I'm going to be moving these over to Ergo when proof of stake comes to Ethereum. So hopefully you guys enjoyed watching the build. Hopefully you get some information from it. You know, I credit a lot of the other YouTube content creators who I was able to learn from with this mining process, you know, from my very first rig that I built. And hopefully everybody in my group, everybody that follows me on YouTube, get some information. If you're interested in, you know, jumping into this, remember, treat it as a hobby first before you start diving into this as a, you know, as an income source. I can tell you that for the most part, all of my cards are paid off. They've ROI'd in the last, you know, 5-6 months. And that's why it's so important to get these cards at a decent rate. You know, you don't want to pay too much over MSRP. But sometimes you got to do what you got to do. So thanks for watching, and I will catch everybody later.